Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. After 10,000 years of silence, humanity's return saved the galaxy. The fall and rise, the sky above Kalar Prime burned not with the gentle azure glow our three suns typically cast, but with the sickly green plasma fire of Dvorer warships. I watched from the command center as our orbital defenses, the most advanced in the Andromeda Collective, crumbled like dried leaves. "First Minister collects my aid," Terran whispered, her voice trembling. "The evacuation ships can only take 10% of the population. We must decide who." I raised my hand to silence her. 4 billion souls called Sealer Prime, mathematics had never felt so cruel. "Dvorers are hailing us again," announced Defense Commander Fell. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the grotesque visage of what we come to know as a Dvorer commander. Their species had emerged from the dark space between galaxies 6 cycles ago, consuming every civilization in their path. Crystalline exoskeletons shimmered over pulsating flesh, their multiple eyes betrayed no emotion. "Your defenses falter," the creature stated. "Your technology will be assimilated. Your biomass will nourish our growth. This is inevitable." The transmission ended abruptly. It was always the same message, delivered with the cold certainty of a natural law. "First Minister," Vil said, "the ancient beacon, it's our only remaining option." I stared at him in disbelief. "The human beacon? That's a desperate myth." "Commander, even if those legends were true, the humans vanished from the galaxy 4,000 years ago. With respect, First Minister, the historical records are clear. Before their disappearance, the humans fought the Morgoth hegemony to a standstill. They were warriors unlike any the galaxy had known, and they're gone," I countered. "Either extinct or departed beyond the galactic rim. The beacon is a waste of our final hours." Vil stood straighter. "The beacon requires minimal resources to activate. What do we have to lose?" I looked at the tactical display, watching as another orbital platform exploded into fragments. The Dvorers were methodical, patient, they would take their time dismantling our world piece by piece. "Activate it," I finally said. "Send the ancient call." The beacon chamber lay beneath our capital city, hidden for millennia. The technology inside was unlike anything we developed, strange geometric patterns etched into dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. According to our oldest records, it had been built by humans before their exodus, left as a promise to worlds they had once called allies. "It's incredible that it's still operational after all this time," Terran said, as technicians worked to power the ancient device. I remained silent. This was desperation, not hope. The humans were a shadow, a whispered legend of a species that had once dominated through the paradoxical combination of breathtaking creativity and terrifying violence. The collective sigh of relief when they mysteriously withdrew to their home systems, then seemingly vanished altogether, still echoed in our history. "Beacon is powering up," announced the lead technician. "Quantum entanglement patterns are stabilizing." The air in the chamber seemed to thicken as the beacon hummed to life. Ancient scripts in the human language began to glow along its surface. "Message configuration ready," the technician continued. "What shall we send?" I hesitated only briefly. "Send everything, our history, our culture, our situation, and tell them," I paused, swallowing my pride, "tell them we beg for their help." The beacon pulsed once, twice, then emitted a single pure tone that made my inner ear holes ache, then silence. "Is that it?" I asked. The technician nodded. "The message has been sent along the quantum pathways. If there's anyone monitoring the old human networks, they'll receive it instantly, regardless of distance." I looked around at the faces of my staff. None of us spoke. We were sending a prayer into the void. 3 days later, the Dvorers breached our upper atmosphere. Their smaller craft descended like a plague of insects, targeting our largest cities. My government had relocated to an underground bunker, where we continued the pretense of leading a civilization that was rapidly being dismantled. First Minister, Vil called, interrupting my thoughts. Something's happening in the outer system. The display showed a spatial distortion forming near our system's edge. At first, I assumed it was yet more Dvora reinforcements, then the readings changed. That's not Dvora technology, one analyst said, voice rising with something almost like hope. The distortion expanded, and from its maw emerged shapes that defied immediate comprehension, ships unlike any we'd ever encountered, massive, angular, and black as the space between stars, with only occasional pulses of blood-red light marking their contours. How many? I asked, my 4 hearts pounding. 27, no, 43. They keep coming, the analyst reported. Over 100 now. First Minister, they're accelerating toward the Dvor fleet. The newcomer ships moved with impossible speed, covering the distance from the system edge to the Dvor position in minutes rather than hours. We watched in stunned silence as they engaged the enemy without communication or hesitation. The battle, if it could be called that, was unlike anything in our military doctrine. The black ships didn't maintain formation or follow recognizable tactics, they swarmed like predators, each seemingly operating independently yet somehow in perfect concert with the others. Dvor ships previously unstoppable were systematically dismantled. We're being hailed, Vil said suddenly. The holographic display flickered again, but this time it showed a figure that sent ancestral recognition coursing through my neural pathways, bilaterally symmetrical, covered in artificial protection rather than natural armor. Human. This is Admiral Helena Chen of the Human Expeditionary Fleet, the figure said, in perfect Carrion. We received your distress call. Hold position and continue evacuation procedures where possible. We will neutralize the immediate threat. Before I could respond, the transmission ended. First Minister Terran, Vil whispered, they came, the humans actually came. I stared at the tactical display, watching as the Dvor fleet, which had smashed through our defenses like they were nothing, was being systematically reduced to debris. So the legends were true, I murmured. Within 6 hours, the orbital battle was over. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, while the Dvor fleet had been reduced to scattered fragments. The ground invasion halted as the remaining Dvora forces dug in, suddenly defensive rather than confident. A delegation from the human fleet requested permission to land at our capital. Despite some advisors' concerns about inviting another potentially dangerous species to our surface, I approved immediately. These humans had just saved us from extinction. They arrived in a small craft that hummed rather than roared, setting down with precision in the designated area. 5 humans emerged, each wearing what appeared to be streamlined armor of matte black material. They removed their helmets, revealing faces disturbingly similar to our own in basic structure, yet alien in detail. No scales, no sensory crests, just smooth skin in various shades of brown. Admiral Chen was easily identifiable as the leader. She approached me without the elaborate greeting rituals most species observed. First Minister Kellex, she said. Your people have suffered greatly. The remaining Dvora ground forces will be eliminated within 12 hours. My engineers are prepared to assist with infrastructure repairs immediately afterward. You have our profound gratitude, Admiral, I replied, still struggling to process their sudden appearance. But I must ask, how? The humans disappeared from the galaxy 4,000 years ago. Our histories say you either went extinct or left for another galaxy entirely. A shadow crossed the Admiral's face. Neither extinct nor departed. First Minister, we were exiled. Exiled? By whom? By everyone, she said simply. The Galactic Concord of that era, 32 species, voted unanimously to contain humanity within our home system. Quantum barriers were erected to prevent our ships from traveling beyond Sol. We were deemed too dangerous to be allowed among the stars. I blinked in shock. That's not in our historical records. History is written by the victors, First Minister, or in this case, by those who feared us enough to imprison an entire species. Her expression remained neutral, but I sensed ancient pain beneath her composure. The beacons we left behind were insurance, a way for former allies to call us if they ever needed the very violence they feared. But how did you break free from this exile? A small, grim smile crossed the Admiral's face. That's a long story, involving 4,000 years of human determination. The important thing is that we detected your beacon, we came as fast as we could. I gestured toward the devastation visible even from our protected landing zone. You arrived just in time. But the Dvorers have ravaged dozens of worlds before ours. Why didn't other systems activate their beacons? Many did, Chen replied. Yours was the 47th distress call we've answered since breaking free. 47th? I gasped. There have been that many attacks. The Dvorers have been methodically consuming the Outer Rim for nearly 80 years, she explained. We have been systematically hunting them for the past 30, working our way inward. Your call accelerated our timetable. Commander Vel stepped forward. Admiral, with respect, why would you help us if what you say is true? Our ancestors participated in your unjust imprisonment. Chen turned to him, her expression unreadable. The species who exiled us are mostly gone now, victims of the Dvorers or time. But more importantly, Commander, humans have had 4 millennia to reflect on our nature. We understand why we were feared. We accept that we are dangerous. She paused as a distant explosion lit the horizon where a Dvor ground force had been entrenched. The fighting will be over soon, she continued. Then we need to talk about what comes next. The Dvorers you've encountered are merely a scouting force. Their main hive fleets are still coming. My blood ran cold. If that was just a scouting force. Chen nodded. You begin to understand the scale of the threat. This is why humanity has returned to the stars, not for revenge against those who feared us, but because the galaxy needs what only we can provide. The Gambit. What is that, exactly? I asked. Our histories say you either went extinct or left for another galaxy entirely. No, Chen interrupted. We were exiled. Exiled? By whom? By everyone, she repeated. The Galactic Concord of that era voted unanimously to contain humanity within Sol. Quantum barriers prevented our ships from traveling beyond. We were deemed too dangerous to be allowed among the stars. History is written by the victors, I murmured. A lesson we've had 4,000 years to learn, she replied. We channeled our nature, our creativity, our aggression, our adaptability, into specific purposes. We aren't the same humans who were caged millennia ago. Before I could respond, an alarm sounded. Admiral, long-range sensors have detected massive spatial distortions, one officer reported. How many? Chen asked. Hundreds, consistent with Dvorer High Fleet signatures. Time to arrival, 4 hours. First Minister, Chen said, I recommend immediate evacuation of your government and as many civilians as possible. My fleet will defend Sailor Prime, but I cannot guarantee success against a force of this size. 4 hours isn't enough time to evacuate more than a fraction of our population, but the alternative was extinction. Then we need to ensure victory here, Chen stated. I need access to your planet's core tapping facilities. 3 hours later, I stood in orbit aboard the human flagship Remembrance, watching as their engineers reconfigured our planet's geothermal energy network. Yar. Marcus Wong, the human chief scientist, explained their plan. Your civilization has been drawing power from your planet's core for centuries, but only in small, sustainable amounts. We're going to draw everything at once. That would destabilize our entire planet, I protested. Yes, Wong agreed. But controlled correctly, we can channel that energy outward. When the Dvor fleet arrives, one massive pulse will disrupt their neural networks. You're talking about using our home world as a weapon, Vel said, mandibles clicking in distress. I'm talking about saving your species, Wong countered. The crust will restabilize over centuries. Kalar Prime will be habitable again. If the Dvorers take it, nothing will remain but processed minerals. I looked to Admiral Chen. Is there no other way? Not with the time and resources available, she replied. This is the calculus of survival, difficult choices with no perfect outcomes. I thought of billions who would face earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and worse, but the alternative was extinction. Proceed, I said quietly. The pulse. The Dvor hive fleet emerged precisely where predicted, a vast arm of crystalline ships that dwarfed even their earlier force. Thousands of them ranged from nimble attackers to massive processor ships that consumed debris to build more vessels. Energy tap network at 90% capacity, reported a technician. Core temperature rising beyond sustainable levels. On the tactical display, I watched as the human fleet lured the Dvorers toward our world. They're taking the bait, Chen observed. Numbers and firepower weren't everything in warfare, she reminded me, timing and surprise mattered more. The Dvor fleet pressed its advantage, accelerating toward the human vessels, which began a fighting retreat toward Kalar Prime. I could see the strategy, but watching my planet used as bait twisted my insides. Core energy at maximum capacity, the technician announced. Containment fields at critical levels. Hold, Chen ordered, eyes fixed on the display. Then, the energy tap network unleashed, Kalar Prime visibly dimmed as unimaginable power surged outward. The pulse struck the Dvor fleet like divine judgment. Their crystalline hulls, immune to conventional weapons, shattered, the neural networks coordinating their hive mind burned out. In seconds, the mighty armada was reduced to drifting husks, but the cost was immediate. Massive fissures opened on our world, visible from orbit, entire continental plates shifted, oceans boiled where new volcanoes erupted. Kalar Prime's core has been depleted by 60%, reported Dr. Wong. The crust is destabilizing across all plates. I stared at the image of our dying world. Your people who evacuated will survive, Chen said gently. In time, perhaps centuries, your world will cool and stabilize. You can return. Billions died down there, I whispered. Billions more will live because of this sacrifice, she replied. And not just Kalarians. The Hive fleet you helped destroy was one of the 3 largest in Dvor forces. This victory may have saved hundreds of worlds. Aftermath. A month later, 2 billion survivors had been relocated to colony worlds and refugee habitats established by the humans. I stood with Admiral Chen on the observation deck of a massive habitat in orbit around one of those colonies. The Galactic Reconstruction Initiative has approved emergency resources for your people, she informed me. Temporary habitats like this will house your population while permanent settlements are built. And what will humanity ask in return? I questioned. Chen seemed surprised by my question. We ask that you survive, that your culture endures, and that when Kalar Prime cools enough for a return, your descendants rebuild. That's all. I asked. Well, she amended, we also ask that you remember both the threat and the response. Remember that humanity returned not as conquerors, but as shields. I studied her face, searching for hidden motives, but found none. Ancient histories painted your kind as dangerous expansionists, violent and unpredictable. In some ways, we still are, Chen acknowledged. But our exile taught us to channel those traits. We still expand, but to protect, not dominate. Looking out at the thousands of carrions being processed into the habitat, I saw human medics treating the injured, engineers restoring artifacts, teachers guiding carrion children. My ancestors feared yours would destroy worlds, I said quietly. Instead, you sacrificed to save ours, Chen admitted. 4,000 years ago, we might have conquered your world. Time changes all species, even humans. As we watched the stars together, I realized humanity had not returned as the monsters of ancient legend, they had returned as guardians, warriors with restraint, killers with compassion, dangerous because they had learned to direct their power precisely. What comes next? I asked. Chen's gaze remained fixed on the stars. The war isn't over. 2 more hive fleets remain. We'll need allies, species willing to stand with humanity against the Dvorers. Will Carians join us? I thought of our devastated home, of the billions lost and of the billions saved. I thought of what might have happened had the humans not answered our call. Yes, I said. We will join you. For the first time since we met, Admiral Helena Chen smiled fully. Then perhaps, after 4,000 years of darkness, the galaxy might finally know lasting peace. As I looked out at the stars, I reflected on the strange twist of fate. The species the galaxy had once feared enough to imprison had returned as its saviors. The killers had become protectors, the exiles had become guides, and my people would live to tell the tale.